One of the most important aspects of Dota 2 is the itemization, but with around 150 items, it can be overwhelming for new players to decide on which items to buy and when they should buy them. In this video, I wanted to explain the most common items bought by Nightstalker, so you can always choose the best option for every situation. First, starting items. You most likely want to always buy 2 sticks, components of a bracer, a tango, and a mango. If you know you'll go against a spell spammer like Shadow Demon or Phantom Assassin, you can get an early stick. But if you suspect that your lane will be a nightmare, you can opt for a healing salve, so you can survive a bit longer. Remember that you need to get as much XP as you can in the lane, as reaching level 4 before the first night is very important. Also, don't forget to get a raindrop if the enemy has powerful nukes. Now let's talk about boots. Now, Nightstalker has only one good option for boots, and those are phase boots. It gives you some attack damage and armor, which Nightstalker loves, and it allows him to chase people during the night. You will 99% of the time buy a phase boot. Early game. You have 3 different paths to choose for early game items. The most common one is getting an Echo Saber. Echo Saber gives you good damage, mana regen, and allows you to quickly kill supports. It also boosts your farming by a small amount. The next choice is Phylactery into Kanda. This is your burst build. Phylactery is cheaper than Echo Saber, and it makes you slightly more tankier. One of the pros of Phylactery is the fact that it allows you to be somewhat useful during the day, as with this item you can contribute to teamfights by just spamming Qs in the backline. Now, the third path is buying a Radiance. This is the most expensive item you can get at this stage, because not only is it expensive, but it has a very bad build-up, as you have to save a ton of gold for the Sacred Relic. Pair this with the fact that Nightstalker doesn't farm very well, you might be asking, why would anyone be buying this item? Well, there are several reasons. One is that it gives you a way to deal with illusion heroes. Nightstalker is notoriously bad against multiple targets. Radiance gives you a way to deal with them. It also makes you tanky against attack damage heroes like PA or Ursa, but that's not really reliable. In any way, Radiance is a very situational item and requires a specific matchups and a good early game. Now, another important item that I want to talk about is Hand of Midas. You usually want to purchase this item when behind, since it allows you to get a good amount of XP by Midasing a big jungle creep. This allows you to keep up your farm in situations where showing up in lane would be fatal. And it makes being trapped behind your towers feel less bad, since you can just pop inside jungle and get some XP and gold. Mid game. The first choice in mid game is deciding if you want to go for an early shard or not. Nightstalker's shard is still very strong even after all the nerfs. Not only it makes you completely independent of mana, but it also makes it so that you never need to go back to your base to recover. This is especially important at night, since you can take fight after fight and pressure the enemy without ever running out of resources. The only downside is the price of 1,400. So if you think you don't really need the sustain that much and other items are more important, you can just skip it. If you have bought Echo Saber, you may want to upgrade it at this point to a Harpoon. In most games, a Harpoon will accomplish the task of Blink Dagger, but if the enemy is slippery, you need more mobility, or you decide to skip the Echo Saber entirely, you can save up for Blink Dagger at this point. Another important item that you might consider is BKB. If the enemy has a lot of disables, you have to absolutely buy this item. Nightstalker ideally wants to get in, kill the supports in a few seconds, and then turn around and massacre everyone else. And this is not possible if you get kited and CC during your initiation. Also, if you have opted for a Phylactery, you can turn it into a Kanda at this point. Now, for some more obscure items. First is Heaven Halberd. This is a tank/utility item. It allows you to disable the enemy right clicker and gives you decent survivability, especially if paired with the shard. You usually want to buy this item when your team has enough damage and you need extra tools to stop a powerful right clicker like Odie or Troll. If there's no need for that, you can turn Sanj into a Sanj and Yasha. This item practically turns you into the Flash. Consider it when facing high mobility lineups. And finally, there is Silver Edge. This item in its current iteration is purely a form of break to deal with heroes like Timber or Bristleback. Buy this when facing heroes with powerful passives, otherwise don't even bother. And now for the late game. A good thing about Nightstalker is that he scales very nicely into the late game. Not only does he have some powerful late game talent, but he gets to buy some nice end game toys. One to consider at the end game is a Basher. This item gives you good lockdown and it makes trading with the enemy carry easier. It also makes it so that you can kill those annoying supports much more quickly. You can also upgrade it into an Abyssal Blade for even more lockdown. Next, and definitely my favorite, is Nullifier. This item is fantastic. It allows you to continuously purge enemies. This is especially good when the enemy supports have purchased 1 or 2 defensive items like Glimmer or Force Staff. This item effectively nullifies all that net worth. I am serious when saying that in most situations, the enemy team is completely powerless against a Nightstalker with a Nullifier. But you might not need to purchase this item if the supports have nothing. In some games you might have such a good early game that the enemy supports will have a boot or few components of their later items. Or in some games they might be idiots and rush Aghanim Scepter, or something else. Next is Monkey King Bar. As you surely know, this item is for dealing with evasion, so pick it up when necessary. Next is Assault Cuirass. This is a good aura item that provides decent pushing capabilities. It also makes you more tanky against physical damage. Pick it up if you need some extra help going high ground, or if your team needs more utility. And finally we get to his Aghanim Scepter. Nightstalker's Axe is extremely situational. It gives you some lockdown, a form of AoE, and it allows you to use your passive during the day. One of the most notable times you want to buy this item is when there's a Phoenix in the game. Phoenix Ultimate has a higher priority than yours, and it will always turn night into day. However, if you have an Aghanim Scepter, this doesn't matter that much, as long as you stay in the Void Zone. Oh, and also, if you purchase the Blink Dagger early in the game, this is the time where you want to upgrade it into an Overwhelming Blink. Now let's talk about one of the more uncommon items that Nightstalker would want to buy. First is Eternal Shroud. This is a pure survivability item. You want to buy this when faced against overwhelming magical damage. Think Zeus plus Skyrath Mage plus Muerta plus Lich. But as it only grants survivability, you don't want it every game. Remember, Nightstalker gets most of the damage from his auto attacks. Always, if you can, buy a BKB. If not, then go for this item. Next is Urn of Shadows into Spirit Vessel. Back in the old days of Dota 2, this item used to be a staple of Nightstalker. You could use it to benefit from early ganks and give you some extra damage. But in the current iteration of Nightstalker, there is no need for this item, especially now that his W deals damage. Also, this item most of the time is built by the supports. But if you really need a form of anti-heal and no one in your team wants to build a Spirit Vessel, you can go for this item. But you probably don't need to. Those were all the items I could think of. If I missed anything, please let me know in the comment section. As always, if you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, feel free to hit the like and subscribe button. But for now, goodbye.